In 1999, Clint Eastwood set up a shot for a crime drama he was directing and placed a 6-year-old girl in the frame. That girl was his daughter, Francesca. 25 years later, in October 2024, she posted $50,000 in bail after an arrest in Beverly Hills. Same family, two very different headlines. That gap sits at the center of 15 Hollywood families. 15 fathers who spent their lives in front of cameras, and 15 daughters who grew up standing right next to them. Some of those daughters got handed an open door. Others watched it close, pushed shut by the man whose last name they carry. And one father in this video looked his teenage daughter in the eye and told her that if she picked acting over college, his money stopped that day. She took the deal. She spent years paying rent the hard way. Stick around and you'll find out exactly which father said it and what happened to her after. Coming in at number 10, Alec Baldwin and Ireland Baldwin. Ireland grew up inside one of the most photographed families in the business, and her childhood played out in newspapers before she was old enough to decide whether she wanted any of it. The Baldwin name stretched wide, too. Her cousin Haley, daughter of actor Stephen Baldwin, built a career as a model, and in August 2024 she welcomed her first child, a son named Jack Blues Bieber. Two cousins, one surname, two completely separate versions of public life. For Ireland, the tricky part was never getting noticed. She was noticed from birth. The tricky part was building something with her own name attached, in a family where the name already came preloaded with opinions. And that problem shows up again and again across this list, in ways that get far more complicated than press clippings. So how does a daughter build her own name when her father's is already on every screen? Subscribe to this channel, because the 14 stories ahead go much deeper than gossip. At number 14, Quincy Jones and Rashida Jones. Her father shaped decades of music from behind the mixing board, which meant Rashida grew up around a very specific kind of pressure. Nobody expected her to sing. Everybody expected her to be interesting. She went into acting instead, taking the one road that let her step out of the studio entirely. In November 2024, Quincy Jones passed away at the age of 91, and the family lost the person who had set the tone for all of them. 91 years is a long life, and it covered so much of what modern music sounds like. For Rashida, though, the loss was smaller and more personal than any obituary could measure. It was her dad. That combination shows up constantly here, a public legend and a private father living inside the same man, and the next family handled it in almost the opposite way. Number 13 brings us Ron Howard and Bryce Dallas Howard. Their story stands out for a reason that sounds boring until you compare it to everything else on this list. No public feuds, no decade of silence, no court filings. Her father built his reputation behind the camera, and Bryce chose to stand in front of one, which could easily have turned into a competition. It didn't. In a business where family names get treated as currency, the Howards kept the family part and the work part in separate rooms, and that took real effort from both sides. Bryce still had to prove she belonged in every audition room she walked into, because being a director's daughter buys you a meeting, not a career. What it does buy is scrutiny. Every choice gets read as a favor, which brings us to a family where the last name comes with an accent, a physique, and an entire political resume attached. Number 12, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Katherine Schwarzenegger. Growing up, Katherine's father was one of the most recognizable people on the planet, and not only for movies. He carried a public career, a public body of work, and a public personality, all of it loud, all of it constantly discussed. She went the other direction, writing. Quiet work, done at a desk, where the reward is a reader you never meet instead of a crowd that screams your father's name. That choice says something. When your dad's face is on posters in 20 countries, the boldest move available might be picking a job that keeps you off the poster entirely. She built a family life largely away from cameras, too, which in Los Angeles takes discipline rather than luck. Not every daughter here got that option, though. Some of them were pushed into the water on day one, and 2 of them made their debuts in the exact same film. At number 11, Sylvester Stallone and Sistine Stallone. In August 2019, Sistine made her professional movie debut in a horror film set underwater, playing a young diver in very deep trouble. Think about the pressure in that. Her father spent decades as one of the most quoted action stars alive, and her first job on a set was screaming in a water tank while the crew watched. No slow start. No small part in a student project. She stepped straight into a theatrical release with a surname that guarantees every reviewer mentions her dad in the first paragraph. Sistine grew up with cameras around the house, so the attention itself was nothing new. But a debut is different. A debut invites judgment. And the thing most viewers never noticed about that particular film is that another Hollywood father was sitting at home that same weekend, watching his own daughter make her first appearance in the same movie. Number 10. Jamie Foxx and Corinne Foxx. Corinne also debuted in that August 2019 underwater horror release, sharing her first professional movie credit with Sistine Stallone. Two daughters of two famous fathers, cast in the same film, launching on the same day. The odds of that happening are small enough to be funny. Her father won awards for acting and for music, so Corinne grew up watching a man who could genuinely do everything, which is a hard shadow to stand in. She built her own working life anyway, moving between hosting, producing, and performing rather than chasing one lane. And she did it while her dad was one of the most talked about performers in the country, which meant every interview came with the same question about him. That question follows almost everyone on this list, and the next daughter answered it by simply becoming impossible to categorize. At number 9, Ethan Hawke and Maya Hawke. Maya grew up with two well-known parents, her father Ethan Hawke and her mother Uma Thurman, which doubled every bit of the attention. She started acting, then started writing and releasing music, refusing to pick a single lane. On Valentine's Day in February 2026, Maya married musician Christian Lee Hutson, with both her parents there. Read that against the rest of this list, and the significance lands. Plenty of these families needed lawyers and decades before they could sit in the same room. Maya's parents separated years ago and still showed up together for her wedding day, in the same photos, at the same tables. That kind of ordinary decency barely makes headlines, and it should. Because the next father on this list turned his own daughter's biggest public honor into a comedy show, and she got him right back. Number 8. Lenny Kravitz and Zoe Kravitz. In March 2024, Lenny Kravitz received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and his daughter Zoe took the microphone to speak. Instead of a soft tribute, she roasted him. She told the crowd that her father's longest relationship was actually with his see-through mesh shirts. The audience lost it. Her dad, standing right there, took the hit with a grin. What that moment showed was a father and daughter comfortable enough to make fun of each other in public, in front of press, on one of the biggest days of his career. Zoe had already built her own reputation as an actress with genuinely strange, specific taste in roles, so she wasn't borrowing his spotlight. She was sharing it. And that ease is exactly what the daughter at number 7 had to fight for, in a family that spent years being picked apart by the entire internet. If this is landing for you, take a second to hit like. It helps the algorithm push these stories to more people. And that ultimatum from the opening is coming up soon. At number 7, Johnny Depp and Lily Rose Depp. Her father spent years as one of the most famous actors alive, and then spent more years as one of the most argued about people on the internet, with the whole family's private business dragged into public view. Lily Rose grew up inside that noise. She built her career through modeling and acting anyway, and then she found an unexpected lane. Her song, One of the Girls, recorded for a television series soundtrack, passed 1 billion streams on Spotify. 1 billion. That number belongs entirely to her, with no help from a surname, because streaming counts don't care who your dad is. It's the clearest scoreboard in this entire video. She stopped being a famous man's daughter and became an artist people search for by name. The next daughter on this list, though, holds something even rarer, a hit song written specifically about her. Number 6. Phil Collins and Lily Collins. In 1999, Phil Collins wrote a song for a movie soundtrack that went on to win an Oscar, and the song was called You'll Be in My Heart. Millions of people heard a big, warm ballad. What almost nobody knew is who it was actually for. He wrote it as a lullaby for his 10-year-old daughter, Lily. On January 30th, 2026, when her father turned 75, Lily posted a heartfelt birthday tribute to him, celebrating a father-daughter bond that inspired one of the most played songs of the 90s. Lily built her own career as an actress, and she has spoken openly about the complicated parts of growing up with a touring musician for a father. Both things stay true at once, a lullaby and a distance. The next family faced something harder than distance, and they faced it while the world watched. At number 5, Bruce Willis and Rumer Willis. In April 2023, Rumer gave birth to a daughter named Luetta, making Bruce Willis a grandfather for the first time. The timing carried real weight because her father had been diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia, a condition that affects language and behavior. In May 2026, Rumer spoke on a podcast and said she felt grateful that her daughter had been able to meet him. That's the whole sentence, and it's heavier than any red carpet moment in this video. Rumer grew up as the eldest child of two enormously famous parents, and she spent years being compared to both of them in public. What she chose to talk about instead was time. Not credits, not fame, not the family name. Just her daughter getting to know her grandfather. And the family at number 4 has been fighting a very different kind of public battle. Number 4, Clint Eastwood and Francesca Eastwood. Long before the arrest from the beginning of this video, Francesca made headlines for a marriage that lasted 8 days. She married Jordan Feldstein in November 2013 and filed for an annulment barely a week later. 8 days. Her father, meanwhile, was one of the most respected directors and actors in the industry, a man known for saying as little as possible in public. Then came October 2024 and the domestic violence charge in Beverly Hills that put her name in every gossip column in the country. Shortly after her arrest in October 2024, prosecutors dropped the case entirely, citing a lack of evidence. No conviction, no trial. But the headlines from the arrest traveled 10 times further than the dismissal did, which is how this works when your surname is already famous. That imbalance defines the next story too, except that one lasted more than 20 years. At number 3, Jon Voight and Angelina Jolie. In 2001, the two of them appeared on screen together as father and daughter in an action film, which looked like the start of something warm. It wasn't. In 2002, Jon Voight went public and claimed his daughter had, in his words, mental problems, and that comment triggered a family break that lasted roughly a decade. She built one of the biggest careers in the world without him. Then July 2026 changed the map. Her twins, Knox and Vivienne, turned 18, which ended the custody rules from her divorce that had legally kept her inside the United States. She's free to move to Europe. Back in 2026, reports surfaced that her father was hoping to reconcile with her before she relocates. A father who spoke to the press about his daughter in 2002 is now speaking to the press to try to reach her again. Which brings us to the ultimatum. Number 2, Dawn Johnson and Dakota Johnson. When she was finishing high school, her father sat her down with a simple choice. If she chose acting over college, his financial support ended, not reduced. Ended. Dakota chose acting. The money stopped, exactly as promised, and she started working as a model to cover her rent, taking jobs to survive while carrying one of the more recognizable last names in television history. Years of that. No trust fund cushion, no allowance, no safety net from a father who could easily have provided one. Then she landed the lead in a romance film that became a worldwide box office event and turned her into a household name on her own terms. So the myth that celebrity children float to the top on a family name falls apart right here. Dakota got the opposite of a shortcut. She got a deadline and a closed wallet. And the last father on this list couldn't be there at all. At number 1, Paul Walker and Meadow Walker. In 2011, at 13 years old, Meadow moved to California to live with her father full-time after years apart. They got 2 years together. 2. Her father died in 2013, and she was 15. Then, in October 2021, Meadow got married, and the man who walked her down the aisle was actor Vin Diesel, her father's closest friend, keeping a promise he had made to look after her. Picture that walk. A young woman heading toward the rest of her life, holding the arm of the person her dad trusted most, in the exact spot where her father should have been standing. 15 fathers, 15 daughters, and the one who wanted to be there the most is the only one who couldn't. If any of these stories stayed with you, hit like and subscribe, because the families behind the famous names always have more to tell.